The following video you are about to watch contains adult language. Probably didn't need to say that, but I will, because just in case someone is bothered by that. Tacos. Hey, hi-ho, and howdy, everybody. My name is Shannon L. Shook, and today I'm thinking about talking about something just a little bit extra. Hey, hi-ho, and howdy, everybody. My name is Shannon L. Shook, and welcome to the first ever episode of the Nomad of Nowhere double hit review cap. Yeah, this is interesting. For a little while now, RoosterTeeth has been saying that Nomad of Nowhere was going to come out, and from the outside, I thought it was cool, and of course I was going to watch it because it's RT, and I will watch pretty much anything they make. Even stuff that doesn't go over too well, I tend to be pretty okay with. It's just the kind of person I am. But basically, when it came down to Nomad of Nowhere, I didn't know exactly what it was gonna be like. I know the basic idea behind the show. Obviously, it is a 2D Western fantasy cartoon series following someone who is referred to as the Nomad, which sound cool enough and fine on paper. And I've seen enough RT shows to where I'm not surprised anymore when something they make is good. But basically, I didn't know whether or not I was going to do a series like this on it, very specifically because I didn't know what kind of series it was going to be. And there's a small part of me that still doesn't 100% know, but I'm leaning towards, yeah, it's going to be a series worth talking about. And then I didn't know whether it was going to be more episodic in the way of, say, Camp or Ruby Chibi, where everything is very kind of maintained and there's not much of an overarching story, really. I could argue there's a little bit more of one in, say, Camp, but even then, not really. So I didn't know if it was going to be more like that, or if it was going to be more like RVB and Ruby, where it was going to have a legitimate story that continues on with just, it keeps going, you know? That was the biggest thing, is I didn't know if it was going to be like that. Also, I just didn't know if it was going to be something I was going to be willing to sit down and talk about anyway, or if I was just going to sit in the background and watch it. And then I watched the episode, and I was like, you got me, I gotta talk about it now. So yeah, Nomad of Nowhere, the new RoosterTeeth 2D animated show. What's my opinion on it? Do you care? Maybe so if you clicked on the video, but also probably not. I dig it. I really do. I really dig it so far. Someone said, one of the first things I saw in the comments after watching the first episode on the site was, well, this show is just so charming. And I was like, that's the perfect way to describe it. I can't think of any other way to describe it. It's funny, and it's incredibly charming. And it's good. It's very good. Anyway, so the show itself obviously follows this character known as the Nomad of Nowhere. The world that they live in is this Western place of interest stuff called Nowhere. And it's cool. I like it. I dig it so far. And the show mainly follows, as I mentioned, the Nomad, who is voiced by, you're not going to believe this, the greatest voice actor who's ever worked for RT. It's crazy. It's wild. You're not even going to believe it. It's Neo's voice actor from Ruby. I know, right? Crazy. You never would have guessed. Do you see what I did there? Comedy. Anyway, point is, we have the Nomad, a mute, adorable, dressed up cowboy mage fella, which is kind of great. It follows Toth and Scout, who are these two individuals alongside Don Paragon's Dandy Lions. Toth being the rugged and strong, strengthy leader lady person of the Dandy Lions, and Scout being her spittoon girl. Scout being voiced by the always friggin' fantastic and, like, seriously, why are you in all of our friggin' RT shows? That's not like a how dare you, it's like a why do you stick around with us? Because I love that you do it. And thank you, Miss Elizabeth Maxwell. But yeah, we have Elizabeth Maxwell as Scout, the, wide-eyed, bookworm, cool, awesome protagonisty here, heroine character. Then again, we have Toth, as I mentioned before, the gruff and strong bounty hunter type person who leads the Dandelions, who is voiced by Denu Uribe. Uribe. I don't know words, and your name is different than I'm used to, Denu. I'm so sorry if I did it wrong. Anyway, so yeah, it follows those two and their group again, the Dandelions. It's this group of soldiers that again work for this fella named, or who knows, named Don Paragon, who seems to be one of those kind of people. We don't see him in this episode, but it seems to be one of those people who's like, oh, I'm the person who does a little bit of everything in this world. I'm over here getting bounties and probably running companies and stuff. You want water? You come to Dom Paragon. You don't want water? You still come to Dom Paragon. I don't know. It follows them and the Dandelions. We only get to meet 3 of the Dandelions in this episode. We get to meet Santi, who's voiced by the series writer Eddie Rivas, who's been in other things, of course, if you're familiar with the RoosterTeeth gang. I believe, if I remember correctly, my man played a Mexican drug lord at one point. We have Stephen Fu, if I believe I'm remembering correctly, as a character named Null. And we have those two, and then last but not least, we of course have Jethro, voiced by my favorite human being on the planet, Ryan Haywood. So we have all of them, and then the last kind of member of the show that we're aware of is a character by the name of Red Manuel, who is another one of Dom Paragon's goons. And I assumedly another one of the Dandelions, but he doesn't dress like them, so maybe he's more just a bounty hunter in the same way that Toth is. And he is voiced by Alejandro Saab. Anyway, that's the main kind of cast of the show, along with a bunch of little magical creatures and critters and whatnot. And it's so goddamn adorable. It really is. Way more than I kind of thought it was gonna be. Anyway, big things about the characters. I don't know. Again, it's the first episode of a series, so it's very difficult for me to figure out where I want to go through everything. And again, I actually intended to script this first episode, or just the episodes for this series in general, and that's also the reason why this is late. And it also isn't scripted, as you can see, so that went well for me. Anyway, I'd like to apologize very quickly for this being a day or so late. I had originally meant for it to come out the day it came out, but here we are. Anyway, the episode, let's go with the characters first. The characters. Let's start with Scout. Scout's a good one to start with, because she's kind of my favorite so far. Scout's really interesting to me for a couple of reasons. One, she's just a fun character to be around. Again, she's really adorable. Her kind of antics and just the way she acts is... I like that kind of character. I really do. I gotta love Elizabeth Maxwell coming to do the voice. It's great. And also one thing I find very interesting and kind of cool is that she kind of appears to be not straight, which is cool. I can get behind that. But not like legit, not behind that. That would just, it wouldn't be a fan of that if you weren't. You understand what I'm saying, unless you don't, in which, thank God. Anyway, I thought it was a cool touch. I'm interested to know then, because apparently she definitely does have a bit of a thing for Toth. So I'm interested to see how that potentially develops, also as well as how much her and the Nomads relationship potentially develops, because both of them are interesting to me, but I have to be completely honest, Toth is nowhere near as enjoyable a character for me as, say, the Nomad is, so I ship the fuck out of the two characters that I enjoy personally more, but that's just me. I had nothing against Toth, it's just I got nothing really for her either. I can respect the outfit. She's got that whole, like... And then the Fire Nation attacked shit going on. Does it? I never watched that show, really. Anyway, point is... so yeah, Scout, I'm all aboard. Toph, significantly less, so probably my least favorite of the characters. Honestly, my least favorite of, like, all the characters so far, except for, 2 of the 3 dandelions we know. We don't know much about them, so there's not much to say, really. And then the Nomad, which I find really intriguing because, again, it's a character who doesn't talk, which I find really interesting, and I'm excited to see what they can do with that, and I'm excited to see, I mean, both in a story and just normal action way, like how are they gonna, a character way, how they're going to work with the Nomad as a character, especially since this series in particular, there's been quite a few things in this first episode that make, like, you have to take a second to go, like, well, what does that mean? What was that about? What is this? And that was mainly a little ways after the Nomad and Scout meet for the first time, and they're at their little cabin. I find it really interesting that they did. Again, I don't know if it's a flashback or if it's a just him imagining it. But when Scout steps into the Nomad's house, and then the scene suddenly switches, and the house is all fine, and she comes out with her hair all done up, normally looking, and with the broom, and she's like cleaning or whatever. I found it really interesting, because again, I don't know if it's supposed to be him imagining what it would be like if he had a companion or a girlfriend or a wife, or whatever the situation may be. I don't know. I don't know what my man's and or maybe not man's is into. I don't even know if it's a dude. It's the first episode. What do you want from me? But I found it really interesting. I find that, and the other one in particular being the end when he saves everyone, the flash on his chest, like his heart or whatever, that glows for a second. You're like, what does that mean? What does this mean, Steve? So I'm very, very interested to learn what these kind of things mean. Jesus. Has a weird video so far. Anyway, I'm intrigued, at least by these characters. The other ones, not nearly as much. They're just kind of fun in there. But I'm okay with it because Ryan Haywood does a silly accent, and that's all I need in life. Anyway, maybe we should talk about what actually happens in the episode. So anyway, the episode kind of starts off with just a wide shot of the desert, and we get introduced to some of the wildlife out there. There's like this weird, almost like flying dragon-looking bird thing with and it's cool. There's also what seemed like a 2-headed armadillo. It's interesting. I'm very, very interested by the world, and I'd like to see more of it. I have yet to actually check out episode 2, even though I believe it is totally out by now. Again, I'm a little late. But the episode starts off with that shot of that, and then we see a large caravan carrying all the dandelions and Toph and Scout as they're all heading over to this big old briar patch. There's a little discussion between the two. Banter, get introduced to the characters. It's great, it's lovely, it's awesome. Scout, she's all like, what up? And then Toph's all like, well, I'm grouchy, so stabbing things. That's what I do. I do the stabbing of the things of the people. And that's great. Anyway, they all end up parking up at this big old bramble forest place area thing where the Nomad is apparently supposed to be held up. And it's here that Toph basically, again, exposits for the audience, going off and explaining who the dandelions are, what the Nomad is, why they're there, all that stuff. Like, we gots to get him. Don Paragon wants him because he's pure evil, because magic. And this kind of raises an interesting question for me, as I'm curious to know if I'm curious to know if the reason the world is upset and trying to hunt down the Nomad is just because they're afraid of the possibility of him being evil with all his magic, or if he has been evil in the past, or if he... I know there was something that some people had suggested as a possibility, which I found was really interesting. I don't know if it's in any way the case. It's more of an out there theory, but I'm intrigued. Where they said it was an idea, perhaps it was more like almost like a split personality sort of thing. Like, yeah, there's the normal, really happy, adorable, happy-go-lucky mute Nomad, and then there's perhaps the evil, terrifying version that's plastered all over the wanted posters and whatnot. Or is it not that, and it's the first thing that I said, and that's all just propaganda because they don't know what the fuck they're talking about. I'm also very interested to know why Don Paragon in particular seems to be so on board with the hunting homeboy down and catching him and whatnot. I'm intrigued. Against the first episode, I don't know, but I want to know more. Tell me more. Anyway, they all talk for a little while. We get introduced to Red Manuel, who I mentioned before. And it's obvious that Toth and Red Manuel don't get along very well. Like, his whole thing seems to be, showing off and making sure that eventually in the end he's the one who he'll be the one who bags the Nomad, and he'll get all the glory and all that shit. Do you see what I did there? Comedy. Anyway, that was another thing that I find interesting about this episode is the "oh sheet" line, because other than that, the line, the entire show is very. It doesn't give off the impression that, say, Camp Camper or RVB does, where it's pretty heavy on the language and whatnot. And the thing is, I don't even know if I can really classify that as like, oh, they're starting off with the language, because in the end it's a shitty pun about a sheet. So I don't know. I'm curious if they're more mouthy in, say, the next episode, or if it is more like, say, Ruby, where it just doesn't really do that, but they really wanted to get that shitty pun in there. It's a really shitty pun in there. Anyway, that's for later, but we're here. Again, this is really awkward because I don't know what I'm doing because it's the first episode. Anyway. So yeah. They all then go in and they're gonna go after the Nomad. There's a bit of Red Manuel picking on Scout because he's a fucking bully. Because they're fucking everywhere. When will there never be bullies? There won't be. And that's why I cry every night. He talks some shit to her, ends up getting himself poisoned. Shows you all those people who picked on fucking nerds. We're not great in every situation, but bitch, bit of book smarts can do you some good every once in a while. Every once in a while. Don't get me wrong, I will die early on in life simply because all I ever had was book smarts, and I don't know how to deal with 90% of life's problems because they refuse to tell you that shit in school. Fuck me. Anyway, he ends up getting poisoned, she ends up taking off, talking some shit, and ends up falling off of a cliff and getting separated from the rest of the group. It's here that she gets introduced to the critters, the little rocks with googly eyes. And it's pretty much from this point on till the end of the episode that I just had a big stupid smile plastered on my face, because it's just so, again, charming is the perfect way to describe it. From the instant she picks up the rock and he starts and just have all the big fucking googly eyes, and you're like, that's fucking adorable. Look at all these little magic creatures, and then there's the big fucking rock, which is all just, oh, what the fuck, oh god. I don't know, it's great. I love it. It makes me very happy on the inside. Anyway, she gets there, ends up getting scared by all the critters, and ends up running into the Nomad, who does that, bullshit where it's like, oh my god, there's the scary ass Nomad, and then it turns over and it's this goofy looking fuck, and I love it. And again, we get introduced to him, and it's obviously that he's been out here this whole time. It's why he presumably makes all his magical little friends, is because he's alone. He doesn't have anyone to talk to, and he's just depressed as fuck. He was just like, I just want a girl, just wanna have. I fucked that up so hard. Anyway, point is, Dan getting introduced, and he's like, hey, we should be friends and all this shit. And she's like, awesome, cool. You know where the Nomad? He's like, shit, yeah, I know where he lives. That's awesome. I'm gonna go tell all my friends so we can kill him. Poor bastard. I also love that he ends up bringing the flower to life and then giving it to her, and she puts it in her hair. I thought it was fucking adorable. And anyway, he ends up leading her off to where he lives, off in his old rundown shitty ass fucking house, not without, you know, just destroying all of her property on the way. Like, don't get me wrong, the getting them across the mud and whatnot, and the feeding the book to the big hippo creature, it was nice and it's cute. Haha, it's great. And I mean, admittedly, the end of the episode wouldn't have been nearly as cheery without it. But that's vandalism, sir, and you are true, pure evil. Dude, I would take out a bounty on your ass because of that shit. You don't fuck with a man's books. Anyway, they end up going to his house, and again, that's where they have that weird quote-unquote flashback, or flash forward, or imagination, or whatever it is. Again, the biggest thing, too, is, like, the fact that he actually rubs his eyes because he's the one who's noticing it. I thought it was really interesting. And again, I would like to know more. I'm curious to know if they're going to keep doing shit like that throughout the rest of the series, because that would intrigue me. I'd like to know more. I vaguely remember hearing someone mention something about how there was a specific kind of weird, interesting way they wanted to do storytelling in this show. And I'm wondering if that is kind of what they were referencing. Again, I don't know. We're going to just have to keep watching to see. Anyway, they go there. Scout ends up going to the house. He has his little flashback thing. And then ends up going back in there alongside her. And she takes notice that, well, obviously, out here all alone, you'd get lonely. No wonder, he must be pure evil. And again, yeah, at this point, I keep forgetting that she hasn't even fucking remembered that he is. She hasn't even figured out that he's the Nomad. Such a dunderhead. Anyway, it's at this point that she ends up being like, oh yeah, I gotta go tell Tothy. He's like, hold up just for a sec. Allow me to just show you, number one, who I am. So he ends up sitting her down, having a little playtime theater with her and all the rocks. And again, they're fucking adorable. Just the one that's like got the teary cry super eyes thing that it's got going, doing the claps. The show's gonna kill me with adorableness. I was not expecting that at all. Which means, because it's RoosterTeeth, they're gonna just fuck us with pain and suffering in the heart at some point. For those of you who are clicking on this who've never seen a RoosterTeeth show before, number one, what are you doing? Number two, thank you. Number three is, why are you still here? Number four, RoosterTeeth in particular has an absurd just fucking boner for just causing pain when you think everything is gonna be fine. The emotional gut punches in Camp is just so cruel. And I love every second of it, but it's evil. Like, the two finale episodes that just like, oh, hey, you remember how you were laughing? You're crying now. I hope you're happy. I get the feeling that that's entirely possible, that will be happening here at some point. Because it's RoosterTeeth. So that's great. Anyway, it's here during this whole play thing that he shows off his magic to her. It's like, hey, watch this, I bring this mop to life, or this broom, or whatever. I was like, hey, that's awesome, that's cool. And before she has a chance to even really react to it, Toth and the rest of the dandies show up. And that goes exactly how you'd expect it to, as they try and fucking kill him. He ends up bringing all the knives in Scout's bag to life, with, oh no, trickery and magic. And then everything goes wrong because they're fighting off that. Red Manuel's being a dumbass and ends up getting stuck in the sheet, lit on fire. Long story short, the mop dies. Nomad books it out of there. Scout's trying to stop him. And the whole forest ends up getting burned down along with Nomad's house. And it's real sad. And the poor guy doesn't deserve this. Anyway, the Nomad books it out and he's basically getting ready to just completely leave. And that's when he hears Scout basically calling to Toth, like, hey, we gotta go, we gotta get everyone and get the fuck out of here, we're gonna die. Fire is bad for the soul. And Toth obviously is one of those people who's like, nah, they have kind of like this weird, I have one thing I need in my life, and that is completing this mission, getting this thing, is I gotta stop the Nomad. And we finally got to him. I'm not gonna let him get away, you know. And I think that's kind of the reason why Toth is so far my least favorite, is because that's all we've seen of her. It's entirely possible there'll be much more to that. I'd like to know why she's so insistent on catching the Nomad. I want to know if there's some personal beef, or if there's some impersonal ham, perhaps. I don't know. Yeah, I think that's my big reason why I'm not 100% on board. But again, it's the first episode. Anyway, it's here that she ends up getting so driven onto the thing that she ends up passing out from all the smoke. And Scout, actually, I should probably mention that Toth ends up saving Scout when she's almost about to get crushed. And it's kind of adorable because Scout, again, totally has a thing for Toth and is all like, well, that's cool. You could lay on top of me all you want. But with a accent. So yeah, Toth ends up passing out from all the smoke, and Scout ends up rushing over to her, which again, it comes back to that she has a thing for her. She ends up reaching for her in a very interesting way, like it's almost like, I'm a pat her head, that's just how we do it here. That's, Scout, you're weird. I love you, but you're weird. And it's during all this that she's calling for help, and of course, the Nomad, being not so much of a douche as everyone seems to like to make him out to be, he ends up going out and being like, you know what, I'm gonna save the day. I'm gonna go get my big water spraying hippo friend. Come in there, save the day. She feeds him the book. He puts out all the water, and the Nomad saves everybody. Everybody's knocked unconscious, but that's okay, because he saved the day. Also, the Red Manuel getting knocked the fuck out scene is pretty fantastic. I greatly approve of that. That was very funny. I feel like the sound effect wasn't nearly meaty enough, but the act itself was very joy-bringing. Anyway, again, after he saves everyone, Red Manuel gets knocked out. Homeboy gets the glowy heart thing, which again, I want to know more about the Nomad. So I'm gonna definitely watch episode 2 like immediately after I'm done recording this. Or at least after I'm done editing. Oh god, we'll figure something out. But yeah, he ends up taking the little flower from Scout that's all burnt up and dead, and he ends up putting on his lapel, and that's not what that is. Puts it on his business, and then basically from that point on, while everyone's knocked out, just decides to set off on his trek to being the Nomad again, taking off into the desert, and that's the end of the episode. And it was really fun. It was funny, and it was cute. And while I personally do think arguably the first quarter of it isn't nearly as enjoyable as the rest, you had to set up exposition. Dude, have you seen this episode? This is going to be by far the worst episode in the series because I didn't know what I was talking about. But that's okay, because the next episode might maybe sort of kind of be better, unless it isn't. So anyway, that's the end of the episode. And yeah, no, I'm on board. I'm intrigued. I'm very interested to know more about the characters and the world and all this stuff. And I find it very fun, and I'm really glad that it came out. My biggest complaint on the show is that they gave it almost no promotion. I don't understand why they didn't do that. They gave it 2 teasers, and that was like it. I don't understand why they didn't, because it's a good show, and I hope it doesn't get kind of like, you know, swept under the rug. I mentioned earlier, I don't need another fucking X-Ray and Vav dying off in my goddamn life again. Don't do it, Rooster Teeth. But yeah, no, I'm excited. I want to see more, and I'm intrigued to know more. If you guys enjoyed the episode or anything like that, or if you enjoyed my video here, all that stuff, by all means, comment down below any thoughts you have. Hit the like button, or dislike button if you think I'm terrible. I wouldn't blame you. But please don't, because you will break my fucking heart. It's so fragile. It's ridiculous. The second a dislike appears on one of my videos, I just immediately it's immediately time to commit seppuku. There is no place for me in this world. Yeah. I enjoyed it, and I hope you guys did too. If you guys did, show the video some love. Tell me what you guys thought. I'll talk to you guys in the next episode, where hopefully things will be a bit more contained and put together than this episode. Again, I do apologize for that. It's just life has been really weird, and I had intended to do this one way, and then that didn't happen. So anyway, I'll see you guys in the next episode. On the episode that's called, I don't know, because it's not open on my screen right now. Toodles, doodles, and lemons, everybody. Scout is best girl.